Obviously, the founding co-chairs of the initiative have articulated the background behind the principles. And the 4 principles that we've seen earlier wouldn't mean anything if they remain principles. It's a way of doing business, and we need to be able to translate it into practice. Otherwise, it's going to be a mere statement of good intentions. So the point of this session is to make it tangible and make these principles concrete. So we're going to ask leading insurers from different parts of the globe what they think of these principles and what they're doing. I'll start with Charles Anderson, not because it's the farthest. He's the CEO of the largest life insurer in New Zealand. And our own experience when we talk about sustainability issues is that the default reaction of people, whether in the industry or outside, is that, okay, sustainability, it's going to be climate change, it's going to be property. Charles is managing life and health insurance business in New Zealand. So we'd like to get a better understanding of what these principles mean for a life insurer. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Butch. Thank you. Well, as anybody else in the life and health insurance business knows, we make promises way out into the future to pay claims at some distant point, 30, 40 or 50 years out. And anybody who's participated or knows anything about the outputs from the Sustainability Forum over the last 3 or 4 days will really have to conclude that our ability to pay those claims will be severely compromised by the increasing frequency and volatility of disruptive events that Akim was talking about in his opening remarks. And coupled with that is the fact that we have, unfortunately, a society which is increasingly frustrated, angry, skeptical, and rather mistrusting of financial services in general, which means that our customer base, the societies which we service, are also likely to be somewhat hostile to the sort of actions we might take. So these 2 things coupled together mean for me, running a life assurance business, this is a strategic issue. It's not a short-term tactical issue. It's a fundamental, long-term strategic issue. And so as a result, one very practical thing we do is we don't have a sustainability team that works on the side of the business, tinkering around with things. This issue is addressed by our strategy team as a core part of our strategic development in the business. That's where it sits. That's where we expect the analysis to be undertaken and for people to understand what's happening, what these future impacts will be on our business. So that's the first thing. It's a strategic issue, not a tactical one. And just to give you an example for that, in our part of the world, regulators are seeking to ask us to allocate capital to cover pandemics. Now, that might be a very sensible thing to do. It probably is if you're looking at the strength of insurance businesses. But how do we actually understand what the frequency and scale of impact of pandemics might be? How do we understand how we might mitigate that impact? And how do we actually get engaged with regulators on addressing that issue? It's very difficult to do it in isolation on our own, and it's very difficult to do it without some information and some science being brought to bear on this. So that's just one very obvious but simple example of why this is a strategic issue and why we need to get involved. The first thing that we're making it practical for us, first thing just to get onto this point, first we've had to get our own house in order. There's no point thinking about impacts outside of your own business first. So we've done a lot of very good housekeeping stuff. We're managing our carbon footprint down to its lowest point that we can. And we're offsetting it as well, so we're a sort of carbon neutral business. We're also thinking a bit more broadly about how we do that to sort of place some signals in the market. Our carbon offset is in natural bush, or as we call it in New Zealand, natural forest, specifically because they're focusing on trying to enhance biodiversity and retain biodiversity in that particular part of the country. So not only we're reducing our carbon, we're also trying to think about creative ways of supporting other aspects of this multidisciplinary sort of issue. We're engaged with our supply chain, as many other manufacturing companies are, on thinking about how they're managing their footprint and their environmental impact, and we're seeking to understand from them how they do that. and work with them to reduce that. So getting our own house in order is one of the first things we can do. But more fundamentally, one of the issues about the PSI is about more inclusion. So, for example, we've worked very closely with some doctors and teaching hospitals and people who understand HIV/AIDS. Because until we did that, we were unable to offer any insurance at all to people, or we were unwilling to offer it to people who had this condition. And by understanding more about how the features of that disease work, we've been able to work out a regime for providing insurance to people that didn't otherwise have it. So just by this collaborative approach, by getting engaged with science and understanding how these things, we can extend our services and products to a wider group of people. Next off our list of things will be to engage on the mental health issue. Mental health is an increasingly frequent problem in many parts of the world. It is in New Zealand, it's one of our biggest issues. It's one of the things that we most frequently pay disability income claims out against. But we're very, very poor at underwriting it. We exclude a lot of people for reasons that we just don't understand enough about what's going on. So our next initiative will be to work closely with the academics and people who understand this illness better and some of the providers to find some solutions so that we can underwrite better that particular problem. And there's other examples we can use where product innovation is going to help us be a lot more inclusive. But the one big area, if I could just quickly finish on this, is investments. We invest policyholder money in capital, and it would be really, really foolish of us if we were investing in things that were harmful to the cause. So one of our biggest areas of focus is going to be to make sure we screen out of our investment portfolios investments that, for example, tobacco, where most of our claims come from some form of tobacco-related illness. Why would we invest our policyholder money in tobacco, making that worse? So on the investment side, we have a huge piece of work to do. We aspire to be totally transparent on where our policyholder investments are. The impact of those investments are on the environment, and so we want companies we're invested in to report on ESG issues. So we support things like the Integrated Reporting Initiative, the Natural Capital Declaration, which will all help the reporting of those impacts, and to make that totally transparent to our policyholders as efficiently as we can, so that they know that their premiums are invested in things that are hopefully net helpful, not harmful. And on that, just one final point is we joined the PSI because we recognise that we can't do these things on our own. It's not a statement about you're already there and doing it well. For us, the PSI is an invitation to get started and to collaborate with a lot of people around the world who are probably even further down the journey, who've done and explored some of the science perhaps in a better way, and for whom we can draw on to make progress quickly. So it's not for us a statement about we're doing it, it's about we aspire to do it really well, and we need some support and collaboration along the way to help us do it.
Thanks very much, Charles, for articulating what these principles mean for a life insurer. We heard business strategy, we heard investment management, there's mental health, social inclusion, clients afflicted with HIV/AIDS, sustainability reporting. Nice summary of what it means to the life and health business. Now we'd like to go to Asia, specifically Japan. And we have here Masao Seki. He's the Associate Director and Chief Corporate Social Responsibility Officer of Sompo Japan Insurance. And there's some interesting developments happening in Japan, particularly. So I'm going to ask you two questions. One, we'd like you to explain to us there's a set of Japanese principles for financial action towards a sustainable society. What is this initiative in Japan, and how does this tie up to these global principles for sustainable insurance? The second one is about product innovation of Sompo Japan. Since we've touched Japan, we'll go to another part of Asia. So we'd like you to articulate what Sompo Japan is doing in other parts of Asia as a way of manifesting these principles through your products. So the first question, please.
Thank you, Butch. Let me begin with the second question you asked. Okay? As an insurance company, at Sompo Japan, we developed wide variety of insurance products and financial products and risk management consulting service. But today, I would like to refer to our experience in Thailand. weather index insurance. In 2007, together with JBIC, or Japan Bank for International Cooperation, we conducted a research about the possibility of insurance as an effective tool for developing countries climate change-related issues. And we came up with the conclusion that weather index insurance is very, very effective for the people who suffered from weather climate change issues. So we decided to develop a weather index insurance for Thai farmers in northeast Thailand. And finally, in 2010, we started to sell that insurance through the sales channel of BAC, Thailand Bank for Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperative, which is another important partner of us in this project. And after starting to sell this insurance product, we are very pleased to report to you that so far it is very well accepted, and we are successful in expanding our sales area from 1 province to 9 provinces in 2 years. And also in this regard, I'm happy to report to you that after acknowledging the success of our project and understanding how the availability of reliable weather data is important, Thai government decided to build more spots for weather observation as the basis not only for weather index insurance, but also for the adaptation policy in general. So in our case, we could say that we worked as a catalyst for changing or facilitating government action toward the resilience and disaster preparedness of the country. And with regard to your first question, just like PSI, recently Japanese financial institutions, including insurance companies, launched a similar commitment to sustainable development. And as I was a drafting team member of both PSI and this Japanese initiative called PFA, which is a little confusing, a principle for financial action toward a sustainable society, I tried to become like a liaison to bridge those two concurrently running initiatives to be consistent with each other. And I am happy to tell you that finally we came up with the same spirit, same idea, and same direction as PSI. Firstly, the common key message between PSI and PFA of us is the integration of sustainability into our core business, product, service, and business process. It's not an add-on activity. Instead, it should be firmly embedded into our core insurance business itself. And secondly, stakeholder engagement. Both of the two initiatives emphasize that we will work together with diverse stakeholders such as policymakers, regulators, citizens, and business partners, and other actors throughout our value chain. Thirdly, transparency and accountability. And here in this regard, corporate reporting is very important to communicate our progress to the stakeholders and to the society at large. In Japan, we launched PFA in October last year, and so far we have more than 180 signatories, including mega banks, local banks, life and non-life insurance companies. And last November, as you know, we had an opportunity to host an Asian PSI regional consulting meeting in Tokyo. And together with our colleague insurance companies of Japan, and there were many attendees from different backgrounds. And we had a very lively and candid discussion which made the meeting very fruitful indeed. And actually, it was soon after the PFA was launched in Japan, so I introduced PFA as an input or an inspiration for the discussion at the meeting. I strongly believe the two initiatives, PSI and PFA, will go hand in hand and generate a good synergy. And that PSI will, with its clear message, will become a global platform to promote common action of insurers under the common vision towards sustainable development. And as one of the honorable founding signatories, and my warm congratulations on this epoch-making launch event. And this initiative is really great and will provide huge momentum for the insurance companies worldwide to act together. I would like to keep working with all of you and contribute to the further evolution of PSI. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Seki-san. I mean, that was well said. On the Japanese principles, congratulations to you for leading it together with the financial sector there. It's very comforting and good to know that there's a natural alignment between this national set of principles for finance and the PSI. And on product innovation, and again, another confluence of issues there, talking about climate change, index-based insurance compared to traditional indemnity-based insurance, reaching out to farmers, working with the Japanese Development Bank. That's an example of a really good example of an innovation. Now let's bring it home to Brazil, where we are right now. And for this part, I'd like to ask Patrick, as chairman of SulAmérica Seguros, what is your vision as chairman for these principles for SulAmérica? And what do you, and then first from your company perspective, and secondly, what do you think are the main environmental, social, and governance issues in your home market here in Brazil? And what do these principles mean to the Brazilian insurance market? So take the floor, Patrick.
Thank you, Butch. Well, I think it's obviously a great honor for us, for SulAmérica, and for the Brazilian insurance company to be part of that. But I think some comments that I would like to share with you. First of all, sustainability has, in my point of view, always be part of the insurance industry. Our job is to manage risk, to choose a good risk, to promote the good risk among our clients, among our stakeholders, our brokers, or the industry that we insured, the good life and the good health of our clients. And this is sustainability. So we have been doing that in our sector, in our industry, since the beginning. Now we should continue. Now we should improve that. And we obviously, signing these PSI documents, it's a very important document that all of our stakeholders we know, and we understand that the insurance industry could help on this direction. Concerning SulAmérica, just two small examples that I will give to you that we had implemented these last 3 years. First of all, we are an automobile insurance company and also in health. And in automobile, we have made an agreement with BASF in order to car dealers to repair cars using water paint based on water and not in oil. So these last 3 years now, more than 26,000 cars has been repaired using this tool, improving, obviously reducing the question of pollutions, but also improving the quality of the workers who were specialized on such instruments. Second, in health, the questions of good health in Brazil, it's a big concern. We have obesity increasing in the country, cardiac problems, stress is increasing, don't seem here with the beach, but stress people here is increasing. So we have implemented a wellness program among our clients using a special team on that. And these last 4 years, also almost 200,000 people has been beneficiated on this program. So it's a small examples. Obviously, a lot of different actions has been taken also in our company, in the Federation of the Insurance Company. But I'm sure that the PSI could be a very important loudspeaker for the insurance industry among the world. And so we are very proud to be part of that.
Thanks, Patrick. Again, another tangible expression of the principles on something that's very common, motor business, water-based paints, environmental protection, better health, wellness. Thank you for those examples of what's happening here in Brazil. Now we'd like to go on the reinsurance side of the house. We have one of the largest global reinsurers in the world. It's Swiss Re. And I'd like to ask David a couple of questions. Number one is, what sort of, as a global reinsurer, what sort of innovation is Swiss Re delivering in different parts of the globe? Secondly, when it comes to your cedents, how are you delivering value to them in the context of complex, interconnected, and diverse environmental, social, and governance risks and opportunities? And I'd like to zoom in on a particular thread of the business, which would be on risk management and underwriting, tools, metrics, models. Can you articulate, David, what Swiss Re is doing on those areas?
It's quite a mouthful, so I try hard. Probably first to the solution piece, I'd like to share with you two illustrative examples on a micro and on a macro scale. On a micro scale, imagine sub-Saharan Africa, a rural area, people normally stricken by drought, quite frequent drought, to the level that they basically are caught in a kind of a poverty trap. So a couple of years of decent yield, followed by a local drought, and they're back to the start. Obviously, insurance could help, but insurance on its own would not be accessible to these people and definitely not affordable. So we teamed up with an NGO, Oxfam America, and figured out that if we build on an existing Cash for Work program where these farmers invest in improving their livelihoods in terms of prevention, better irrigation systems, that would basically reduce already the risk for the most frequent type of events. And as those are out of the game, then all of a sudden insurance becomes accessible and in fact affordable for these people, especially since some of the work they do on the prevention side, they get cash or kind of compensated for, which they can invest in insurance schemes. So we managed with partners in the region to increase societal resilience, to increase also, I would say, to render the principle of solidarity in a village very tangible. And I think with that we increased their stability, the stability of their livelihoods, probably even helped to reduce or stop migration in that specific area. We also paid out a couple times by now. We're now scaling that up across Africa. Now, I'm not mentioning that, and I'm really thankful for the first comments you made, to basically praise the things we've done. But I see the PSI as an opportunity for us to share these type of solutions with a wider audience and especially further develop them with our clients. As you know, a reinsurer is at the end of the food chain. So we do not develop in isolation, and we definitely do not make any type of business in isolation. And that brings me to the second example, a macro type of a solution. Caribbean region, the CARICOM countries, 16 states, frequently exposed to the risk of hurricanes. Now, each single country could try to find a solution which probably would be quite costly in transaction costs, in finding the right level of protection. So we figured out, again, with a lot of different strong partners, the World Bank needs to be mentioned, basically what the system we could devise that pools risks on an exposure basis for the region and enables these different countries to share risk, but in a very transparent fashion, a parametric fashion, and to be quickly indemnifying some of these governments for some of the losses in case of a large catastrophe. Again, I would say playing a bit on the level of solidarity in the whole region, definitely helping these different countries to get access to global insurance, reinsurance capacity in a far more effective way than would they do on their own. And last but not least, helping them to better manage their natural catastrophes, also in the light of climate change, or especially the need for those societies to adapt to a fastly changing environment. And that brings me to the second question, which I cannot answer in brief in its breadth, but it just can put a spotlight on it. I think Achim Steiner mentioned the key challenge here is that we know a lot, but we're not yet there when it comes to application. So we do need to work closer, I would say more effective with science. And what we try and what we see as one of our core functions is that we provide that link between science, be it the IPCC, be it latest science on the impacts of natural catastrophes, just to take one example, and how could that translate into business, and where could business make a difference. And again there, homing in on the Caribbean example, we first devised, in fact, the insurance solutions, the reinsurance solution, this pool type of structure, and then we figured out that that cannot be all of it, because we only come after the fact, and there would be a lot that could be done in the preventive and preparative phase up to a hurricane hitting specific places. So we invested quite a lot in the economics of adaptation. How can societies be better prepared, and what are the most effective levers for these societies to do so? So we really try to make these scientific results out there in the scientific literature applicable to the local communities, the local decision makers. Now, there's one word of caveat, and I think, again, there, the PSI will come in. We are only in an advisory position. We do not basically tell people what an adaptation strategy should look like. And I think the PSI will provide us, together with a platform, to further develop the understanding of where could the industry really help societies to become more resilient. And my last comment in that respect is, if we do that very well, we become very relevant to what I think is really at stake in helping local societies cope with issues like climate change in an affordable fashion. And we have a role to play in that, but we can no ways play it in isolation. In that sense, I'm very, very happy to be here with you today.
Thanks very much, David. And I'm quite happy that you mentioned science, because one of the challenges for UNEP as an environmental program of the UN is to link public policy with science. And I'm happy that you've made that link, because we do need to wire those strands together: policy, science, finance, insurance. So I think that was well said in that respect. Again, we heard resilience, innovation in terms of parametric insurance for a region, working with governments. So that's very insightful. Now I'll turn to Eugenio of Bradesco. And I call him Mr. Macro now, because he's been selling me insurance wherever he goes, whether I'm here in Rio or when he visited in Geneva. But we'd like to hear what Bradesco, I mean, it's the largest insurer, you said, in Latin America. And how do you, we've heard quite a number of statements on a whole range of spectrum of issues, be it environment and social issues. What is Bradesco's interpretation of the social dimension of these principles?
I changed my mind there. I will try to explain my point of view in English. Bradesco has an excellent commitment with the principles. Bradesco decided to be the first insurance company in Brazil to sign the principles. Because if you divide the principle in social, environment, and governance, Bradesco is so close of this principle already. In social, in 1957, Bradesco Bank founded the Fundação Bradesco. Fundação Bradesco is responsible to provide basic education and high school education nowadays at least to 100,000 young students in Brazil. This is very important for us. The other thing is Bradesco is a bank for all Brazilian family, and the insurance company for all Brazilian family too. We have at least one family insurance in all Brazilian cities. We are the first company in Brazil to launch product with its philosophy and concept of microinsurance to low-income people and slums and low-income people region. Bradesco has another commitment with the social in society with the longevity and function of the strong basis and the pension plans, and the strong base and the health insurance. To teach, to try to teach the people financial education and the better quality of life. This is very important for us. In governance, Bradesco has a very strong commitment too, because everything is Bradesco works in accordance with the compliance rules, external and internal compliance rules. Bradesco is according to the regulators, the government, and the society, and the other stakeholders. But you lack one point, a special point, and things linked to environment. It's a new one for us, this issue in Bradesco. We need support of the reinsurance, we need support of the horticulturists, we need support of the PSI team, the Munich Re, Swiss Re, the other insurance companies spread around the world to teach us how to face the catastrophe risks, the climate changes, and natural disasters. This is very important for us. We believe the principle helps the Bradesco to be a better company in quality of services and quality of the products. We have expectation of just. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eugenio. That's quite a very inspiring story on the social dimension, but you even touch on other areas of sustainability, be it governance as well. And I think it's something that something to look forward to on what can happen in this space. I was in London, when was that, 2 years ago? I was asked to chair a session on microinsurance, and we surveyed the crowd and we asked them, how can we ensure a sustainable microinsurance industry? And there were 3 threads that came out of that round table. One was there has to be prudential regulation on this type of business. Number 2, consumer education is absolutely important, insurance literacy. And number 3 is, of course, natural catastrophe risks also. So those were 3 strands, and I'm very happy that Eugenio was able to articulate how this business model for microinsurance is evolving. Last but not the least, we have Osvaldo Do Nascimento from Itaú Seguros. And it's quite a special question because it brings me back to some of my days in the insurance business. And I remember a conversation I had with a reinsurance broker. And this broker told me that, you know, Butch, insurance is a rotten product until you have a claim. I didn't agree with him then. I still don't agree with that person now. And I think my question to Osvaldo is that by considering sustainability issues, how are you delivering value to your clients beyond paying claims? It's a given that if there's a claim, if it's compensable, you pay it. Fast, efficient, fair. But how are you doing that in Itaú, where when there's no claim, how are you providing value?
Okay. First of all, it's a pleasure to be a part of the principles of sustainable insurance. Itaú is a conglomerate. We have a banking, we have an insurance company, and a credit card company. And as a conglomerate, we have several responsibilities. The first one is to protect the investments of the customers, because all the citizens in the country make investments, and we are supposed to allocate all these assets in a better way. Our second responsibility is to provide money in order to make a better economy, to improve the economy. We make loans for cars, for homes, and other utilities. And we have a responsibility to educate the people how to get money and how to use that money in a better way to improve quality of life. And also we have the responsibility to protect the investment, to protect the life, to protect all the things like houses, home, cars, and all properties that our customer has. For us, to be a part of the principal is a multi-layer responsibility. The first responsibility is related with the society. How can we communicate with our citizens? It is very difficult to be a sustainable company only for inside. Our major responsibility is how to be a sustainable company for outside. In order to do that, we have decided some years ago to make an educational program for our employees. We have more than 100,000 employees, and we have a big responsibility to educate our employees to talk about sustainability, because otherwise everything will be theoretical, and we are supposed to be practical. And by doing that, we have a lot of results. I think the first result is to interact with the society in order to make the right things by using all the resources in a better way. We have also the interaction with the brokers. In Brazil, there are more than 60,000 brokers, and we have the responsibility as an insurance company to educate the brokers to talk about sustainability. And that was a program developed not only by Itaú, Bradesco, SulAmérica, all the insurance companies are doing that. We have to promote that type of education because here we are only few persons talking about sustainability, but we can multiply. We can multiply for thousands or millions of people talking about, understanding, and practicing. And inside of the company, we have already concrete results. I think the first result was interaction with the regulators, because the regulator has a big responsibility with the sustainability programs, because all the regulations has impact in the way how we operate. And we have developed a program to simplify all the contracts. We have simplified the insurance policies, and as a result, we have developed a paperless insurance, where the customer is able to buy a product with the perception that the customer is contributing to our global environment by avoiding the use of paper. And we have also developed a simplified language to communicate some products. We have some products that mix investment and lottery, and sometimes you buy investment, but in reality you are buying lottery. Then we have to simplify the language to make it clear what is the real product that the customer is buying. And in the product we develop, I think by exchanging experience with the other companies, we have already developed home insurance, where we are supporting all the householders how to recycle materials. We have a scheme to collect recycled materials, and we have also a call center that support our customers to develop sustainable products, sustainable projects, like how to save water, how to build a house, recycle out water. And I think we can help the customers by supporting the products, not only selling products. And by using all these results and by being part of PSI, I think we can exchange several other ideas that can improve this project as a whole.
Thank you very much, Osvaldo. We are on a tight schedule, and it's an excellent set of examples globally. New Zealand, global reinsurer, working in the Caribbean, Africa, home market of Brazil here, Japan, Thailand, very whole range of product innovation on what these principles mean for different types of insurance companies and different actors and different geographies. So we hope through this session we were at least able to articulate what these principles can mean in practice. It's not a complete set of examples, obviously, but it's an inspiring set of examples on how we can translate these principles into practice. I'd like to thank the panel for their insights, and I'll ask them to stay because we have an interesting segment coming up.